The following audio is from Ceres Christian Church. For more information and service times, please visit us at cereschristianchurch.org. That's cereschristianchurch.org. We hope this message will help you to live life loved as you walk in God's grace and truth.
Before I start, I have to give a shout out to the VBC crew. I came here this week. I'm going to give you another opportunity to do that as well. I came out this week, my first week here. They said, look, I don't care what you do, you're there VBC week. I was like, ¿Qué pasó? What's going on with VBC? It is amazing. I sat in the back and I said to myself, kind of out loud, but there were a couple people around me, and I said, people do not know how much it takes to do this. And the people around me said, oh, we know. We know. The months of planning and meetings ahead of time and all that. But they said, not everybody knows. So I'm here to tell you, oh my goodness, it takes so much work. And they pulled that thing off, and I was stunned. I was amazed. I was impressed. I was like, you people do this every year? This is awesome. So, would you give them another round of applause? Hey, job well done. Oh, you were there. You were around me when I said that out loud. Yes, she's the one who said that thing. So we're in a new series called Fight. And what we're doing is we're wrapping a series around what has been called the 7 deadly sins. And those would be pride and greed, lust and envy, gluttony. I won't be preaching on that one. Wrath and sloth. And here's what the deal is. You and I know that we have gotten our tails kicked by this 7. This 7 has broken up our families. This 7 has ruined our lives. These 7 sins, have kept all of us from being who God called us to be. And you know what? It's time for you and I to stop being picked on, to stop being bullied, to stop being beat up by these 7. So I'm saying it this way. If it ain't right in God's sight, then you and me gots to fight. And last week, we did round 1, where we punched pride in the nose with some humility. But this week is round 2. We're going to talk about greed. Ooh, we're going to talk about greed. Michael Douglas in the movie Wall Street said this about greed. It's funny. This is a famous quote. He said this and won an Oscar for this. He said, the point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies. It cuts through and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all its forms, greed for life, money, love, and knowledge has marked the upward surge of mankind. I respectfully disagree. In fact, the opposite is true. Greed itself captures the downward spiral of mankind. So here's what greed is. The Webster's Dictionary defines greed as this: a selfish, excessive desire for more of something, such as money, than is needed. The Bible goes a little further in its description of greed. The Greek word used for greed in the New Testament means this. It means to lust for more and more, to have a starving appetite, and the appetite is really the central issue here, for something, to have a love of possessing, to crave after and for, grasping and desiring to have more and more, hoarding all one can get and still craving more. Biblical commentator John Rittenbough says this. He says, greed is ruthless, self-seeking, and an arrogant assumption that others and things exist for one's own benefit. I love what the New Testament Greek scholar William Barclay said about greed. He describes it as an accursed love of having, which will pursue its own interest with complete disregard for the rights of others, and even for the considerations of common humanity. Greed is ugly. And it shows up in different areas of our lives. Greed, we can be greedy for attention. Some of us have to have, we have a craving and a grasping for more and more attention. We got to have all eyes on me. Always have to have the attention. And some of us verbally clamor for attention. What about me? What about me? What about me? And others of us act out certain ways to gain that kind of attention. But no matter how much attention people give us, it's never enough. It's the way greed works. We can also be greedy for power and control. Some of us have a deep craving to be in charge, to be in control. Some of us have this deep appetite within us, not only to be listened to, but to be obeyed. Oh, we want people to be obedient to what we say, not only in parts of their life, but in all areas of their life. We have to have power and control. Those of us who struggle with this kind of greed, we are your classic micromanagers. You ever work for a micromanager? Mm-hmm. We are your overbearing helicopter parents. Some of the teenagers are saying, hallelujah, preach it, brother. We are your out-of-control little league parents. Oh, boy. These little league parents, they cured my son of ever wanting to play baseball. These little league parents are like the worst people on Twitter in the flesh. But no matter how much power or control that they have, it's never enough. Such is the nature of greed. We can also be greedy for fame and notoriety. It's like being greedy for attention, but instead of just craving the attention of people around us, we want the attention of the broader masses. And this kind of greed goes back to the beginning of time, but never in our history has this greed in us for fame and notoriety been so well fed than in our current cultural context. Oh my goodness, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it all provides sort of an all-you-can-eat buffet for this kind of greed for fame and notoriety. It's this kind of greed, this thirst for fame or to be infamous that leads people to walk into schools and shoot up everybody. It's this kind of desire, primarily of our sons and daughters, that causes them to post outrageous and sometimes dangerous videos of themselves. It's this kind of thirst for fame and notoriety, this insatiable desire that has led more than one or a few of talented, gifted Christian artists to leave the stages of the church for the well-renowned stages of our culture. But it's insatiable. It can never be satisfied. It always wants more and more and more. Oh yeah, there's many places and areas in our lives where greed shows up, but really the main area where greed shows up in our lives has to do with our relationship with money and possessions. There's an ancient Roman proverb that says money is like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you are. They asked John D. Rockefeller once, someone asked him this question: how many millions does it take to satisfy a man? And after thinking about it a little bit, he replied, the next one. Greed. Now you might be thinking, well, I can't be greedy because I ain't rich. Let's take a survey and see if that's true. Raise your hand for me, if you will. If you have a car, raise your hand. Okay, good. Put them down. If you have 2 cars, raise your hand. Uh-oh. Okay, so if you have a TV or 2, raise your hand. Okay, anybody got 3 or 4 or 5? I mean, don't raise your hand. I just wanted to know. Being nosy. Okay. How many people go to Starbucks more than twice a week? Raise your hand. Now, how many people just lied? Raise your hand. Raise your hand in here if you live in America. Yeah. Can I tell you something? If you raised your hand, you rich. And here's how I can make that assertion. According to PewResearch.com, almost 9 in 10 Americans have a standard of living that is above the global middle class standard. On a global scale, the vast majority of Americans are either upper middle class income or high income. So globally speaking, everyone in this room is rich by some standard. But here's the thing. Greed has little to do with amount. Greed doesn't care how much you have. Greed shows up whether you're rich or you broke. And boy, can I tell you, we need to be careful with greed. It is dangerous. Here's what it does. Greed practices deception. In the book of Jeremiah, God is using the prophet Jeremiah to speak to God's people, and God is not happy. And one of the reasons God is not happy is because of greed. In Jeremiah 6:13, it says, from the least to the greatest, all are greedy for gain. And look at how it plays out. The prophets and the priests alike all practice deceit. It says in 2 Peter 2:3, Peter is warning God's people of false teachers when he writes this. He says, in their greed, these teachers will exploit you with fabricated stories. Greed teaches you to steal, to cheat, and to lie, to be deceptive. There was a little girl and her mother went to the store, local grocery store, and after the mother bought all of her groceries, the grocer had a giant jar of candy. And he saw the little girl and he said, go ahead, stick your hand in there and take however much you want. And the little girl shyly went behind her mother's leg. And the grocer kind of smiled and he put his own hand in there, grabbed, and gave her a generous amount. And on the way home, the mother talked to her daughter and said, you're not usually that shy. When the man asked you to put your hand in and take some candy, how come you didn't take any? And she said, because his hand is bigger and I can get more candy. She's lying. She needs to be beaten, Jesus. No. Greed practices deception. It will cause us to lie, to steal, and to cheat. But greed also hurts others to get what it wants. Proverbs 28:25 says, greed causes fighting. Oh, you bet it does. That's because greed is obsessed with itself. Greed only cares about getting more. Greed will blind us to the type of pain and hurt that we inflict on the people around us. There was an old 70s soul group by the name of the OJs. And that one of their famous songs is For the Love of Money. And that beautiful Philadelphia trio sang this. They said, for the love of money, people will steal from their mother. For the love of money, people will rob their own brother. For that lean, mean green. If you ever want to test this to see if it's true, just go to a funeral and then wait long enough till the children start fighting over what's left. Oh, no. At the funeral, they were throwing themselves on the grave. Oh, my Lord, don't take me with me. Don't take my... But then they found out that their sister's getting all of mama's dresses. Oh, then there's no crying and weeping. There's only kicking and biting. But seriously, greed hurts other people. And you and I, you won't believe this when I say it, but I'll prove it. You and I right now are victims of someone else's greed, particularly your children. Here's why I'll say this. Sean Parker, who was one of the early investors into Facebook, he said that they, him, and the rest of them were creating something that people would become addicted to by exploiting what they called a human psychological vulnerability. They call it the validation feedback loop. See, they set it up so that when you post something on their social media platform, you do it in an effort to get a like, or you do it in an effort to get some kind of positive response to it. And they set it up in such a way that that triggers something in the brain so that when you do it, you almost have to do it again. Sean Parker said this. These are his words. It's exactly the kind of thing, quote, it's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. He says the inventors, the creators, it's me, it's Mark Zuckerberg, it's Kevin Systrom, I believe, who had Instagram. It's all these people, he said. We all understood this, and look at this, and we did it anyway. And this is Sean Parker still speaking. He says this: God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. Well, I don't have to be God to know. I can tell you what it's doing to our children's brains. Suicide is up. Depression has skyrocketed. I can tell you what it's doing to our children's brain. Loneliness is sky high. In all of our society, in the history of our society, we have never been so connected and so lonely at the same time. But they did it knowingly. But why would they do it? Why would they do it to hurt me, you, and our children? Greed. They all became billionaires. Well, thank God, at least Sean Parker's conscience began to bother him that made him speak up. But greed. Greed will hurt others. Greed will do whatever it takes, even if it means hurting you. But greed also tempts us to find life in money and possessions. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, a father has died, and one of the sons, on cue, comes to Jesus and says, Jesus, tell my brother to give me my part. And sensing what's happening here, you ever notice how Jesus looks behind it? Jesus tells everyone this in Luke 12:15. And then he said to them, watch out and be on your guard against all kinds of greed. And this, in an amazing, insightful point here, Jesus says life does not consist in the abundance of possession. The Greek word that Jesus uses here for life means of the absolute fullness of life, both essential and ethical. Jesus speaks really what's at the heart of greed. Greed is an abortive way for you and I to find love. It's an abortive way for you and I to find joy and peace and belonging and security. It's our way of finding life outside of God. It is, in a sense, a sort of sick worship of and devotion to the constant grabbing of more, thinking that somehow there's life in it. And Jesus says, be careful, because in that stuff ain't no life. I think that's why Paul was so forceful when he declared in Colossians 3:5, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. There's an old hymn we sing, in Christ alone my hope is found. Greed says, in money alone my hope is found. In possessions alone my hope is found. Jesus says, watch out, because ain't no life in your stuff. Greed is dangerous. And so you and I, we got to fight it. It's time to stop being picked on, and we got to fight back. Yes? Okay, here we go. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, just for you, this one time only, folks, I'm going to give you a combination, a boxing combination. I'm going to give you a left jab, and then I'm going to give you a right hand power punch. Okay? You ready? Because you're going to fight back now. That's time. I'm sick of watching you get bullied. I'm sick of me being bullied. So I'm going to give you a left jab, and then I'm going to give you a right power punch. Okay? Okay, watch this. Here's the left jab. Here's your left jab. Write this down if you're taking notes. Remember the eternal while in the temporal. Remember the eternal while in the temporal. It's funny, in Luke 12, after Jesus tells everyone that life is not found in possessions, he follows this up with a parable. He says in Luke 12:16 through 21, he said, the ground of a rich man yielded an abundant harvest. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I'll store my surplus grain. And then he said to himself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. Look at verse 20. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. And then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? And in verse 21, he says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Always remember that all that you have is temporary. It's not eternal. There's a story of a financial investor who was visited by an angel, and the angel said, I'll give you one wish. And the investor said, I'd like a newspaper 1 year in advance, please. And as he was looking through all of the stock prices, greedily desiring this windfall, his eyes glanced over at the obituaries where he saw his own name. And suddenly, his investments weren't so important to him. Listen, don't misunderstand me. The stuff that you have is great. There's nothing wrong with stuff. Does that make sense? Okay. It's when stuff starts to take your eyes off of God and places your eyes firmly on the here and now and on getting and possessing and accumulating as much as you can. See, greed is not having stuff. Greed is when stuff has you. Y'all preaching for me this morning. I'll give you part of my paycheck. I'm not. Because I'm greedy. No, that's... So do this. Do this, folks. Here comes your left hook. When you have plenty, but something in you keeps saying, I want and need more, I want you to ask this question. I want you to ask, will having more of that matter when I die? Pow! I know I got 2 closets full of clothes, but Nordstrom's is having a fantastic sale this weekend. Will having more of that matter when I die? Pow! I got 2 and 3 cars and I only drive one, but that car over there, ooh, that car looks nice. Maybe I'll go down to the dealership and see if I can. Now, will having more of that matter when I die? Pow! Oh, we got plenty of money, but you can never have too much money, right? Will having more of that matter when I die? Pap, pap, pap. Oh, you got it. Okay, this is your jab. This is your jab. All right. Now, I gave you the jab. Now I want to give you the right hand. This is a combination of 1, 2. Boom. Got it. Ready? Oh, we're going to knock him out today. All right. Your jab is this. Ask the question. Ask the question, right? Will getting more of that matter? Bam. Remember that. Now, here's your big right hand. Your big right hand is give. That's your power punch. Giving. A great way to deal greed a crushing blow is to give. Andy Stanley said this. He said, quote, generous giving will break the grip of greed on your life. So whether or not you think you have extra, give and give generously. You've got to give to the point that it forces you to adjust your lifestyle. If you're not willing to give to the point that it impacts your lifestyle, then according to Jesus, you're greedy. He says, I know that's strong. Actually, it's harsh, but it's true. And look at this. Break the power of greed through the habit of generous giving. Beloved, you and me, we got to find as many ways, as many places, and as many people to give as much as we can to. You need to give your money, flat out. Give some of your money. Youth for Christ is a great organization that you can give your money to. Give your money to the Turlock Pregnancy Center. Fund some of that stuff there. Fund and begin to give some of your money to organizations that are on the front lines of fighting against the sex slave trade. Give some of your money to missions. Support an African child, because if my daughter don't start acting right, she's going to need a place to live. She don't pick up her shoes. She don't wash no dishes. So help this African child, please. Find some places to give money away. You and I are rich. We've already said that. We've established that. But also give away some of your possessions. Look, girl, I know you got all them clothes and 2 closets full of clothes. Give some of them clothes away. There are organizations that actually help battered women. They need those clothes. Brothers, you got all those tools just laying around in your house. They've been laying around your house for years. Give some of that stuff away. Your extra can provide somebody else's need. Give. I'm going to ask the worship team to come back up, and we're going to close this out with a quote, and then we're going to put this combination together. You ready for this? Worship team, come on back up. Tony, I don't know if I pronounced his name right. Tony Campolo, he's a sociology professor at Eastern Baptist College. He said this. He said, this is a beautiful quote. He says, there is one primary way to overcome greed, and that is to discover the joy that comes from self-giving. Beloved, I'm telling you, this is so true. I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you, when you get this, whenever you're ready to stop being picked on, greed has picked on you long enough. It's been bullying you up and down the street. Since you were a child, greed has been bullying you, and it's time. No more time to be bullied and beat up no more. Listen, I'm going to give you this 1-2 combination, and this, I'm telling you, if you exercise this, you're going to really give greed a black eye. Okay? So let's put this thing together. Let's put this combination together. I'm going to finish with this. I know I got 2 closets full of clothes, but Nordstrom's is having a great sale. Here comes your jab. Will getting more of that matter when I die? Bow! Now here comes your power blow. In fact, I'm going to give some of these clothes away. Boom! Oh, hold on 1 second. I got 2 and 3 cars, and I know I only drive one, but boy, that car, that's a nice car. Maybe I'll go down there and see if I can pick that car up too. Hold on 1 second. Here comes your jab. Greed is calling you. It's picking on you. Here's the jab. Will getting more of that matter? Bam! In fact, I know there's a family that needs a car, so I'm going to give them one. Boom! Woo! I know I have some money. I got plenty of money, but you can never have too much money, right? Here we go. Here's greed. Here's the jab. Oh, but will getting more of that, will it matter when I die? Boom! And then in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start giving to those organizations. Boom! I'm going to start giving to the church. Boom! And then I'm going to give to some families who need it. Bye-yow! Oh no, he's down, folks. Greed is down. This is an upset for the ages. He's out. He's done. Victory has been won by the Christian. Come on, man. It's time to beat up that greed. A little homework this week, okay? Here's your homework assignment. Find somebody to give something to. And then thank God that you got something to give. Amen? Let me leave you with this. This is out of 1 Timothy 6:17. He says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. God bless you. We'll see you next week.